know where the box went.
Good evening, everyone. I now call to order this meeting of Lancaster City Council for January 10th, 2023. Just a few reminders at the top of the meeting for everyone. This meeting is being recorded and it is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. This is a good time to silence your phones and devices if you have not done so already. There will be public comment periods during this meeting, and during those periods, if you are making public comment, we ask that you come to the podium here at the microphone and begin your comments with your name for the record and your block of residence. Thank you. Now, for all those who are willing and able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Ahmed.
Here.
Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Diaz.
Here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Gregg.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
And President Beke.
Here. Our first item is the approval of the minutes for the December 20th, 2022 meeting. I'll hear a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Are there any council comments on the minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
President Beke.
Aye. Our next item is proclamations, honors, awards, and resolutions of recognition. Do we have any of those this evening, Mr. Harris?
We do not, Madam President.
Thank you. That takes us to our first public comment period. This is reserved for residents who have contacted the city clerk prior to the meeting to request the opportunity to address City Council. Again, the duration of those comments are limited to no longer than 3 minutes. Please begin with your name and your block of residence for the record. Do we have comments this evening, Mr. Harris?
We do, Madam President. First is Benjamin Novak.
Thank you. Mr. Novak, good evening.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the council. My name is Benjamin Novak. I live at 8 North Marshall Street. I'm here this evening because I'd like to tell you guys about a situation I had involving the lead ordinance. It got me pretty upset, so I apologize if I get a little animated. I'll just try and tell you what was going on. I have a 1-year-old son, and in December, he turned 1 year old. We took him to the doctor, got one of those finger prick tests for lead. Came back a little high. The doctor says, these things can be wrong sometimes. Next thing you need to do is get a blood venous draw. So we take my son in there, trying to get a 1-year-old in an IV, get a blood sample so they can do this test. Test comes back well within normal limits. The limit is actually, his result was a 1.2. So that's the situation. Last Saturday, I get letters from the city saying, actually, I've got lead in my house, saying that the city has received information that my son has a elevated blood level above 5 deciliters, and that if I don't have all of these things done, someone come in and look at my situation, tell me what work needs to happen, and have it done on a certain timetable, I'm going to start getting fined $1,000 a day. I was told that, so that's the situation. I was pretty steamed about it because the city never got any notification that my son had a blood lead level over 5. I called Kim Whistler, who was the person who sent me this thing, and she admitted on the phone that the information she had was that there was a level of 4.8. So this letter had a material falsehood in it. It was not true what she put in this letter, but she sent it anyway, saying that they had information that was over 5. There was no way that that's true, and she admitted that that was not true. So that's number one. There was a falsehood in that letter. Number two, the city code, I got it right here, it's section 182.2. It says that an elevated blood level is defined as a blood lead level confirmed by venous sample to be equal to or greater than the lead level defined by the CDC. So the city never had that. They never had any venous blood samples for my son. Someone decided based off of the finger prick that they were going to jump the gun and send this letter without even consulting the code, or if they did know the code, they ignored it. So that's a problem. The code is very specific and it specifies what's an acceptable sample, and that was not ignored. That was ignored, or at least not consulted. This thing's saying that I got lead in my house. That's false. When I bought my house, I made sure that I didn't have lead in my house. When we got the finger prick thing, I had my wife and I went through everything and make sure, we got lead we don't have any lead in our house.
30 seconds, Mr. Novak.
Thank you. I'm just very upset that there were false statements made. I'd like to know what's going to be done about the fact that there were false statements made to a resident that the city knew was false. I'd also like to know what's going to be done about the fact that this correspondence was set out in violation of the city's own codes. I'm upset about it. I hope that you are too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Novak.
Council President, may I?
Mayor Sirachi.
Yeah, Mr. Novak, first of all, I'm really glad that your child is okay. That is the heart of our effort, is to make sure that we're preventing lead poisoning from children in the city of Lancaster. And we have very high rates of lead poisoning throughout the city. And it has been our commitment to address lead poisoning and its effects on children's abilities to learn. So really, first and foremost, really grateful that your child is okay. I want to apologize for the alarm that this caused you and your wife. It is certainly not our intention to alarm property owners. We do require a quick and thorough response when we are notified that there is an elevated blood lead level that has been reported to us through public health. What we have discerned in this process, and I'm very sorry that you have had to experience this, is that they need to specify whether it is a venous draw or a finger prick draw. And that information was not included in the information that was provided to us. It will be moving forward, and we have assurance that that information will be provided to us so that when we are acting quickly, that we are acting quickly with complete and thorough information. And so I just want to reassure you that we've already addressed and found the internal control that was not in place with the data that was being shared with us. And we will be acting in accordance with our ordinance moving forward as it relates to information from venous draws. So I thank you for bringing this to our attention as a team. We acted quickly to respond, and I also appreciate you bringing these concerns to council. And I'm happy to discuss this further with you, or to have Rebecca Geiser, who's here tonight, who can also answer any other questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Sirachi. I appreciate that follow-up. Mr. Harris, are there any other public comments this evening?
Yes, there are, Madam President. Next is Maria Cool.
Great. Ms. Cool, good evening.
I'm Maria Cole. I live in the 600.
You'll feel free to pull that
I'm
down.
short.
That's okay. Thank you.
I live in the 600 block of 3rd Street. The reason I'm here is trash issues in my neighborhood. It's really getting out of control, and I've done a little research, and I have some suggestions for changes in city ordinance to help this situation. One point is that when somebody is given a notice or anything on this, they get a 15-day period to clean up whatever problem there is. That should be shortened. I believe the ordinance should be changed so that these renters who continuously do not handle their trash properly or clean up any messes or the trash in their yards and property can be evicted eventually, similar to the noise ordinance in the city, where if police come out 3 times within given parameters, the offending renters can be evicted. The trash is just really out of control in my neighborhood, and endlessly depressing to be around. I also believe that the ticketing of the people, the $25 ticket, I believe, should eventually be able to escalate, not just constantly being $25. I know there's 2 houses in my neighborhood who are getting regularly $25 tickets, done nothing. So I think that raising the fine as after so many tickets would be a good idea. It's so depressing, and there's no reason why these people cannot pick up this mess. There's one rental in particular where literally a few months ago, there were 3 dirty baby diapers that had fallen out of the trash bag into the yard, and I walked by there every day walking my dog, and literally for weeks, those baby diapers sat in that yard. These people walked past it every single day, going in and out of their house, and never did anything. Now the trash is worse than ever. It is totally littered because of a bag breaking open, or they don't handle their bags well, or animals or crows or whatever pick at the bags, which happens, and the stuff gets pulled out, and they never pick up anything. And it is worse than it's ever been. It's
30
into
seconds.
the gutters now. It's on the sidewalk. They haven't touched it, any of it, for the past week or 2. Their trash bags sitting in front of their porch, shouldn't be there. This will be the 3rd week. They never brought them from the porch, the few feet down to the curb. They're still sitting there. Tonight, they're still not out for trash. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and I hope that you will consider these suggestions for ordinance changes, because what we have now is not working. And I do want to
Thank you.
commend.
Ms. Cool, I just want to alert you that we've gone over time.
I'm so sorry.
But I do want to tell you that the city clerk has provided your email, which provided great detail
Okay, thank
to
you.
me, and I'll provide that to the rest of council as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to commend Mr. Jackson, though. He's been very, very good in our neighborhood and helping as much as he can. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Harris, are there any further public comments this evening?
There are not, Madam President.
Thank you very much. That takes us to the reports requested by council. Mr. Harris, do we have any of those this evening?
We do not.
That takes us to reports of committees of council. These meetings were held on January 3rd. We begin with Public Safety Committee. Councilor Diaz.
Thank you, Ms. President. We were discussing the 4 firefighters that will be appointed, and we can bring that administration up and legislation agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Public Works Committee, Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Council President. There was one item on the agenda which we will come to later in the legislative agenda, which is authorizing a grant application for the replacement of the Susquehanna Raw intake water main, and that was everything that was discussed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Walsh. Economic Development Committee, Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We did discuss a resolution that will be on the agenda later today, Administration Resolution Number 2, 2023. And we also gave a brief update on the Community Facilities ARPA RFP, and announcing to the public that we are still collecting or accepting proposals through 11 a.m. on January 23rd, 2023. That concludes my report, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Finance Committee, Councilor Ahmed.
Thank you, Council President. The Finance Committee did not meet.
Thank you very much. Community Planning Committee, Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Although I was not here, Community Planning did meet. There was one item on the agenda, and that would be amending a sewer plan control for the yards at 1147 Lidditz Pike. That will also come up later on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. And the Personnel Committee, Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Madam President. The Personnel Committee did meet on Tuesday, on January 3rd, and reviewed one nomination for appointment to the Shade Tree Commission. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Councilor Calixte. We then move into our legislative agenda. The first item are nominations for appointment, and that will go right back to you, Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Madam President. In our last meeting, we discussed the nomination of Mr. Jerry Riddle to the Shade Tree Commission. He was here at the meeting and he answered some questions. He stated his desire to help and shared his goal with us. So he is here tonight with us also. So I would like to make a motion, Madam President, to appoint Jerry Riddle to the Shade Tree Commission for a term from January 10, 2023 to December 31st, 2025.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Rydell, you are here this evening, and we appreciate you coming back to full council. Are there any council questions or comments for our appointee? Comments on the appointment from the public? I just need you to go up to the mic. I know it's perfunctory, I know, but the folks at home can't hear you otherwise.
My name is Ivan Acosta Vélez. Mi nombre es Iván Acosta Vélez. Mi pregunta a usted, señora presidenta, my question to you, President of Council, what does this commission do?
Terrific.
It looks good, but we have a lot of trees that are, okay? So what we gonna do about that? Do they deal with that? And
Absolutely.
Let us know.
Actually, this is a reappointment, and you're currently serving. Would you care to give some insight on, you're currently serving, right? Am I have that correct?
No, I'm not.
You're not. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I thought it was a reappointment. But the Shade Tree Commission provides guidance on where trees are planted, what types of trees are planted, and taking care of our tree canopy in the city. Am I missing anything?
Yes, the Shade Tree Commission has jurisdiction over trees between the sidewalk and the street.
Great.
We also review and provide recommendations on any tree plantings that are on land development plans that are being presented to the city. We know that there are a lot of trees.
That's a technical term.
Unfortunately, a lot of the responsibility for the damage to the trees is from utility companies like PP&L, whom I know it is the city's desire to try and get more control and more influence over the type of trimming they do. We currently do not have much influence over what they're allowed to do, but there are there's things in the works to try and improve that. But yes, I know there's a lot of butchered trees up right now.
Thank you very much. And I'll just add that the Shade Tree Commission generally meets on the third Tuesday of each month here at City Hall, and those meetings are open to the public. Thank you. Any other comments on the appointment?
On the appointment, you said?
On the appointment, that's the item
Okay.
that's up for consideration.
All right, so what about the trees? That wasn't,
I would love to have a conversation about that separately, but right now we're just considering this appointment. Thank you. Hearing no further public comments on the appointment, Mr. Harris?
Mr. Ahmed?
Aye.
Mr. Roy?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
And President Baker?
Aye. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to the city. Item B, this is ordinance for first reading. We have Administration Bill Number 1 of 2023. Mr. Harris.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lancaster, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 5 of the Code of the City of Lancaster, Administrative Departments and Bureaus, Article 5, Bureau of Procurement and Collections, to rename the Bureau to be the Bureau of Procurement and to change the direction of the Bureau from within and under the Department of Administrative Services to be within and under the Office of the Solicitor, providing for the repeal of inconsistent ordinances, providing for the severability of the ordinance, and providing that the ordinance shall take effect as provided by Pennsylvania law.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Again, this is a first reading, so the actual vote will come at our next meeting. This ordinance would rename the Bureau of, and I'm sorry, this came through the council, the Committee of the Whole, so I will take this one. The ordinance would rename the Bureau of Procurement and Collections to simply the Bureau of Procurement, and it would organize it under the Office of the Solicitor, as the title suggests. The reason for this change is that the Bureau's operations deal with legal contracts that require oversight of the city solicitor. This change would not change any of the operations of the Bureau. It would not eliminate or add any positions within the department. Don't see if there's anyone else in the administration that has anything else to add. I'll take any council comments on the first reading. Comments from the public. Mr. Acosta-Velez.
My name is Ivan Acosta Velez. Mi nombre es Iván Acosta Velez, 804 Highland Avenue, 804 de la calle Highland. My question to you, okay? We're putting this person in charge. Where is he? He never comes to meetings.
Well, he was working today. I saw him in his office.
Yeah, he's working in his office. I'm talking here.
He was here at the...
Excuse me, let me finish my question.
Okay, please.
As
ahead.
a member of this community, we should know who we're paying for solicitor. I've never seen him. Never. Unless you tell me the name and maybe the name. I've gotten his assistant to get the right to know information. I'm just asking. So it looks good. Doesn't that you don't want him to come always, but he's going to be in charge of that. We like to ask him a couple of questions. He's not here. Can you please look into that?
Sure, and I'll also let you know that he was here at our committee meeting where we originally discussed this. He may be at the next meeting. I'm not sure what his commitments during the day look like that day.
Yeah, but it would be nice if we're paying him, even if we have to pay him, that the citizens of Lancaster can see him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments on the first reading of this ordinance? All right, again, this will come up at our next meeting for a vote. We then go to resolutions. Resolution number 1 of 2023. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster authorizing the conditional appointment of firefighters with the Bureau of Fire of the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is Councilor Diaz.
This is the actual process of hiring firefighters in Lancaster. And for those 4 that will be taking place in their training, it would be Eric Austin, Kyle Latham, Brian Hollister, Robert Lane, that will be going up to Harrisburg, are we gather, to do the training. And if there is any other questions, we do have the chief here from fire, for the fire department. But it's basically the appointment of these firefighters that will be taking their training.
Thank you very much, Councilor Diaz. Any council comments on the resolution? From the public?
Madam President, if I may. It's not a question, but just once again want to thank Chief and his men and women for their dedicated service.
Thank you. Hearing no further, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Ahmed.
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Gregg.
Aye.
Ms. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
And President Bege.
Aye. We then move to resolution number 2 of 2023. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Lancaster approving the recommendation of the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Lancaster to dissolve Tax Increment Financing District Number 5 and approving the dissolution of the same.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution involves the Tax Increment Financing District that was established in 2008. It is an economic development tool which allows the city to borrow against future anticipated tax revenue, and the Redevelopment Authority is currently recommending that the tax district now be dissolved. If there's anything that I might have missed, Director Dose, if there's anything you'd like to add to the resolution?
And Director Delfs, if I may, only because this was a question that was posed to me after the committee meeting, if you could just speak to whether this affected actual tax rates for residents within the district.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. I know that we talked about this in some detail during the council committee meeting a week ago. I really appreciate the questions that came up. I figured there might be additional questions because this is a little bit of an unusual economic development tool here in the city. I appreciate the summary. I thought that was well said. I just wanted to add briefly to that that the original purpose of this tax increment financing district was to allow the construction of the parking garage at Market Street. That was about a $5 million construction cost. There was an issuance of a $5 million note, so essentially $5 million of borrowing. As Councilor Arroyo said, it was borrowing against future tax revenue. This started in 2008. The good news is that that tax revenue has rolled in within the district, and we're able to pay back the construction value of that parking garage. In fact, I think it performed a little bit better than expected, and so we have about $300,000 that will be going back redistributed to the three taxing bodies, the City of Lancaster, the School District of Lancaster, and the county. In answer to your question, Council President, this does not affect the tax rates in any shape or form.
Thank you very much.
Any other council comments?
I had a quick question for the director. This came after the first reading of this. In regards to how Decades was kind of involved with this, with that being in the Northeast and isn't technically in the Northwest, how did that kind of relationship come up?
The Decades building is within the boundaries of the tax increment financing district that was established. So I think in terms of the title of the Northwest TIF, maybe it was just a naming convention.
Okay.
But I can confirm that Decades is within those boundaries.
And then, so for other TIFs, it would just have to be within the boundary of that TIF?
That's correct. So if we establish a new one in the future, which we may come back to City Council at some point with a proposal for a new TIF, we would be clear about where the boundaries fall and would show you a map of those boundaries, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Any other council comments? Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Council President. Just one question. I think we had touched on it last time, that this is not, if the area was originally involved in a TIF and now you take it away, can parts of that whole area once again become a TIF in the future? Or is it a use it and lose it?
I think one of the elements that we talked about last time is that the LRTA and the TIF cannot overlap. My understanding is that you could redraw a new TIF that could comprise some of this same area, but you would have to be clear about what the purpose of that TIF is for.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Comments on the resolution from the public? Ms. London, good evening.
Maybe I can start at the beginning. It might be helpful. The tax increment financing is a certain type of economic development tool. That authority is provided by the state. So municipalities can engage a TIF, the tax increment finance, if they so desire. In this case, there was an area or a district established. There was a note issued to borrow $5 million to build the garage with the expectation that tax revenue would come in based upon the redevelopment of that area. So in other words, the parking garage was helping to facilitate particular uses in that area. And then the tax revenue that came later then was used to pay the debt that was taken on by the city starting in 2008. Yes, so we're all done with this one. This started in 2008, and now essentially that tax revenue that happened between 2008 and 2022, that has now paid off the note, paid off the debt for the parking garage. Just to officially eliminate the TIF. Yes.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
just
Thank you, Director.
add for everyone's edification that once the TIF is ended, that the revenues that were being used to fund the payoff of that debt now go back to the taxing authorities as they would be in any other area of the city. So that's the county, the city, and the school district. All three taxing bodies had to approve and would have to approve any future creation of a TIF district.
Thank you. Further comments from the public?
And just because I'm curious, I just want to make sure, it's about $300,000 that will be coming back to the city, is that right, Patrick? Or Chris?
Across all three.
Sorry.
Right, it's $300,000 coming back to all three of the taxing bodies, so it works out to, I think, a little bit under $100,000 for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one thing to add, the city's contribution in 2022 to the TIF district was about $225,000. So we make that payment out of the property tax revenues. So for 2023 going forward, effectively that expense goes away.
Thank you. All right. Hearing no further comments on the resolution, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Royal,
Aye.
Mr. Cleese,
Aye.
Ms. Gregg,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
and President Beke.
Aye. We move on to Administration Resolution Number 3, 2023. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster approving the adoption of an amendment to the Act 537 Official Sewage Facilities Plan for the City of Lancaster.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Did we get the whole title in, Mr. Harris? Great. We have a motion and a second. Councilor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. 1147 Holdings LLC has proposed the development of a parcel of land identified as the Yards at 1147 Lidditz Pike, and proposes that this parcel be served by sewer tap-ins. We've done this over and over and over, and it's a safety precaution. The Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection requires that the municipalities to adopt an official sewage facility plan providing for the services adequate to prevent contamination and environmental health hazards with sewage waste, and to amend when necessary to assure that there is adequate sewage disposal. I really don't have anything else to add to that because it's a safety precaution.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. And I would just add, Mr. Dolph, just for as a point of clarification, these sewer control plan modules certify that the city has done all of the due diligence necessary. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So each time that we have to look at one of these sewer capacity questions, the planning staff within the city administration and the public works staff make sure that there is capacity in the system for a new proposed development. So that's what that vote is just affirming the affirmation of our staff.
Great. Thank you very much. Council comments on the resolution. Councilor Walsh?
Just one question. Can you remind us where we are in the development process? This is one of many resolutions that have come before us and I imagine are still yet to come. So can you let us know where we are in this particular development process before completion or at least construction begins?
Yes. Happy to, and I know that we did touch on this briefly last week at the committee meeting, but I think because it's such an important project, it's worth touching base on this again. There have been zoning approvals in the past for this project. Also, there were approvals by Historical Commission, which were then adopted by City Council. The Traffic Commission also approved the plan in November of 2022. We're in the latter stages, the final stages of the land development approvals as well. So at this stage, we're getting very close to the finish line, and everything is lining up pretty well to finish up all of the different approvals in the process.
Wonderful. And this is for 20 units of market rate?
No, so this is the stockyard. Currently, the stockyard in site at 1147 Lidditz Pike. It is a total of 226
200, okay.
residential units, but 45 of those units are the units that are identified as affordable units that we funded through the ARPA allocation. And those 226 residential units, they're spread across 2 5-story buildings.
Thank you for the reminder.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other council comments? Comments on the resolution from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Met?
Aye.
Mr. Roya?
Aye.
Mr. Cleese?
Aye.
Ms. Craig?
Aye.
Ms. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
President Beke?
Aye. That brings us to Administration Resolution Number 4, 2023. Mr. Harris.
A resolution of the Council of the City of Lancaster requesting an H2OPA grant of $6,465,213 from the Commonwealth Financing Authority to be used for installation of a new raw water intake line.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you, Council President. We discussed this during our committee session last week in regards to this particular grant application in the amount of 6.4. We'll round down just slightly. And as I understand it, as explained to us by Ms. Campbell last week, this is for the second and third phases of the installation of this water line. Mr. Campbell, if you have anything to add to that very brief summary, I would appreciate it.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, earlier last fall, in late November or early December, you had given us permission to make an application to the Commonwealth Finance Authority for the H2OPA funding in the amount of $20 million to address 2 lines, the line from the Susquehanna River to the Susquehanna Water Treatment Plant, and from the Susquehanna Water Treatment Plant to Oyster Point Reservoir. We were looking at that as a single project. We got approval from you to make the application. As we were doing the application work, the state said, you can think of this as 2 separate projects rather than as one project of 2 phases. And as such, that allowed us to go after $20 million for one phase, which is we call it Phase 2, which is from Susquehanna Treatment Plant to Oyster Point, but also Phase 3, we could put in an additional application, which is the segment from the river to the Susquehanna Water Treatment Plant. And so this is making that clarification that the $20 million that we had asked for before went forward in its application, and this is an additional application for a grant for $6.4 million for that particular segment. There's no guarantee that we will get it, and again, what is being asked for here is the permission to make that application.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Anything else, Councilor Walsh?
That's everything. Thank you.
Are there any council comments on the resolution?
Just a quick question, if I may, Madam
Councilor
President.
Ahmed. Yep.
So will this remaining grant cover the remaining estimated costs of the project?
No, it will not. The overall project is the 2 projects combined are approximately $44 million. The maximum we can ask for in the first one is $20 million, and there's an equation based on the amount of, the value of the project in question, and we're going up to the upper limit of that equation. So we're asking for the maximum amount we can. The balance will have to be done via a loan from Penvest. And if we're successful in getting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ahmed. Any other council comments? Comments on the resolution from the public? Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Med,
Aye.
Mr. Arroyo,
Aye.
Mr. Cleese,
Aye.
Ms. Craig,
Aye.
Ms. Diaz,
Aye.
Ms. Walsh,
Aye.
and President Beke.
Aye. That concludes our legislative agenda this evening. We now move into our second public comment period, open for comment on items that were not on the agenda. As a reminder, durations of comments are limited to no longer than 3 minutes in length. Please begin with your name and block of residence for the record. Mr. Acosta-Velez.
Mi nombre es Iván Acosta Vélez. My name is Ivan Acosta Vélez. I got a grant from the city for 25. You were supposed to come to my house and fix the lead. You spent $2,000 on the floor and it's falling apart. The ex-president of council saw it himself, and Ms. Janice has saw it herself, and nothing has been done. And you thought I was going away. I want something to be done, and the workmanship was horrible. And also I'm asking the mayor, is this gentleman from Scranton still getting contracts in our city?
Do you want to finish your public comment? Because I don't want to take up your time with an answer, so.
Okay, what do? $25,000, shut up, Ivan. It's not done right. Workmanship. And I keep on calling. Left a message for her. She had the courtesy of not returning it. They told me to call her. You know? And I just want it resolved. I'm not going away. So I want it resolved because you pay this person to fix it. Okay? You paid him $3,000 to cover my stuff. My stuff got messed up. Okay? And one, it belonged to my grandmother. Okay? So you can sit there and think I'm not going away. You thought I was going away. The only thing I'll go away is if I pass away. And I don't plan to. So please, okay, you're the president of council. Is there somehow we can have hearings on this? Because there's other people that have had problems with this. No? Or you're going to sit there and shake your head and not do anything about it? You're talking about taxpayers' money that you're supposed to be an eye for? And the workmanship was horrible. And it had to do with the lead program. And I've come here a whole year. I keep on saying it. Oh, you shut up. No, I'm not going to shut up. And you know why I'm not going to shut up? My experience as a child. Okay? I had a white teacher, first grade. I asked to go to the bathroom. And she was so nice, she didn't let me go. I peed on myself. So after that, blame her. That made me the talker that I am now. Please, get this resolved. Okay? Or someone in staff that will do it. Because I'm going to keep on coming. 3 minutes, and you're going to hear me, and go home with headaches. Let's resolve this. Because there's other people that have come to me. They're afraid of you. I ain't afraid of any of you. You know? And it's not to fight. Okay? We're in the same team. But sometimes people come here, and you're like, we'll get to it. No. And I'm not against the mayor. If I was, I would tell her to her face. That's the type of person I am. We're a team. But you guys don't want to play in a team. $25,000 that went, okay? Things were damaged in my home. And we keep on here. Can there be a hearing? What committee deals with the lead? What is committee, Madam President?
So that would fall under community planning. But for your questions tonight, and I appreciate you continuing to follow up, I don't have all of the answers this evening, and I don't think I can resolve them within this time frame. But I will follow up and find out what the latest status is. That's what I can say right now.
Please, okay? I'm going to continue until it resolved, okay? And you can come and visit and look at the workmanship yourself, okay? Seeing is believing. Okay, come and see it so you can see where $25,000 went. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acosta-Velez. Are there any other public comments this evening? Mayor Morris, good evening.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor. Just a couple of things, hopefully fairly quickly. I'd asked by right to know recently for the number of city employees, and I was referred to the budget, page 54, to go through it and add up all the employees for every bureau total. It takes a lot of work. And all I'm simply saying is if the city doesn't have a total of the number of city employees, it's unfortunate. I will do my best to go through the counting. I did this recently on another right to know, ended up hiring an accountant to look at it, only to find out from the city that really what I was raising was kind of accurate, but I was never answered directly. You were counting things, you were given information every year for a number of years on water and sewer fund balance, and suddenly you stopped. And it took me a while to get information on why that didn't comply with what was in the audit. Some of these things are fairly simple if people are willing to give fairly quick answers, and I think there could be one on that. On the broadband, Madam President, you raised a question the other week. I sent you an email on this last week. I don't understand why the city can't give at least an update. Public has a right to know. This is not asking for privileged information. There should be an update on where that RFP is. I think it was put out more than 6 months ago. It was supposed to be awarded within 3 months, except if there was a financing issue, and then within 6 months, which I think took to December. So it would be helpful just to have an update. Where does it stand? Are you reviewing bids or whatever? If you have reported it, I haven't seen it. And your question wasn't answered because you didn't say anything after you were told it was a legal matter. And lastly, I have some information I want to give out to you. When you talk about revenue for the city, projecting them, one thing that wasn't discussed, and maybe I should have raised it, but others could have, is the Marriott in downtown. And the mayor would know about this. I think it preceded most of the members' participation in the city. Back in 2016, there was an arrangement made with the new Marriott where they would pay what is called a participation rent, which in short is saying they would share the profits. And they were supposed to kick in 2021 for 200 grand and 274. No money was received. 277 in 23. By 2025, it's supposed to be over $1 million in participation rent to be shared with the school district.
30 seconds, Mr. Morris.
Okay, that is not how many, did you say I'm done?
30 seconds.
That is not in the projected budget, and it would be good to get an update to find out, is there an expectation that that participation rent will be paid, or will there not be? And one last thing, when it was approved by council, it was projected initially to be $8 million in total. Very shortly thereafter, the mayor would know this because she was not happy when this change occurred, it was dropped to $7 million. So I'm going to give each one, I'm done now, I'm just going to give each one of you the formula that was developed and approved.
Great. If you could just give that to Mr. Harrison, he'll pass that on down. Appreciate that. Thank you. Any further public comments this evening? Ms. London.
Yes, Dana London. Question. So we've been doing this water thing for a while.
I missed just what you were saying. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
There we go. Is that better?
Thank you.
Okay, so we've been doing this water thing for a while. I think since you came into office, that's when we started hearing all these projects with the water, our water system, which is fine. I'm just curious, and I'd like to have back information as far as grants that were done for this project, water project, the whole thing, because everything is separated. It's water, sewer, and everything else. I just like to get an idea of what's going on and how much we actually spent thus far on this project or whatever projects that you had, just because I'm curious. That's all. I just like to see
Okay, thank you, Ms. London. We can provide you with information about the grants, and I can do that right now, which is we've just applied for 2 grants. There have been no other grants that have been applied to the water projects. And if you could specify in just a little bit more detail because we have various different capital projects, if you are asking about the 42-inch main replacement for which council approved the Phase 3 application, I can provide you a summation of the first phase that was completed and the price tag for that and the estimated cost for the additional 2 phases. And I think that was also tied into the water tower that was constructed and is now in operation that's serving the southwest water distribution area, southwest region of our water distribution area. So we can talk a little bit more, but I just need a little bit more specifics.
No, and that's good. I'd like to have that information. I'm just curious how much money we spent on the water system from the city to the county, because it's been going on for a while, and I'm just curious, and we're not done, and that's fine. I'm sure there's a lot to do. I just like to know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. London. Any further public comments this evening? Hearing none, we then move to the report of the mayor. Mayor Siraji?
I do not have a report this night. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. We then move to the report of President of Council. I do not have a report this evening either. We move then to council comments.
Question,
Councilor Diaz?
Bernie, this question is directed to you. The directory that you forward for 2022, would that give you a complete total of all the employees?
Is that the city directory? Just to clarify.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
The directory that you forward from the city of Lancaster, would that have the total of the city employees? I would gather it probably doesn't have the ones at the water company, but is the directory updated that has at least all the employees that work here in the city?
I'm sorry, is that the phone directory? I have not forwarded one of those recently, and no, that would not include all of the city employees.
Right.
Okay,
Anyone
thank
that
you.
wouldn't have a phone. Thank you, Councilor Diaz. Any other council comments this evening? Okay, hearing none, having concluded our business, I will hear a motion to adjourn.
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.